Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, the weather has taken a bit of a change today. I've been telling you about that. Had a cold front blow through yesterday evening and overnight, and it's quite windy and it's cold. I mean, not real cold, but I think we're hovering around 37 degrees right now, and it's not really expected to get any warmer today. I think, the high today is 39. Very cloudy and wind gusts of 30 to 35 miles an hour. Tonight, possibly down in the teens, if not the low 20s, and then not much better tomorrow. And then we'll have a warm up. So it's just a little cold snap. Probably going to lose a lot of leaves off the trees, having since they've already been turning, and then having 30 to 35 mile an hour wind gusts today. You will be, and I've noticed already. It's like, half of the leaves are already gone off the trees this morning. So anyways, I thought that was, it feels like the weather is finally changing. We've had a very mild, actually a very warm fall so far. So it's getting there. There's more talk, and I know there's talk about this, not just recently ever so often, but for years ever so often. But maybe there's something to it, of the potential or the reality, I guess, that there are sleeper cells all over the country. Some say even in every county or every zip code or every locality, and that they are on the verge of going active. The most recent talk of this, strangely enough, comes from Kash Patel's girlfriend. Kash Patel, as you know, is the director of the FBI. His girlfriend is a country music singer. I've never, not to my knowledge, ever heard her sing. I mean, I listen to country music, but I listen to old stuff. I mean, I mostly listen to gospel, Christian, bluegrass, stuff like that. That's kind of, there's a little bit of rock in there too. But anyways, she says that there are sleeper cells all over the country and that they are going active and that there's a chance for them to go. What's interesting with this story is that she's his girlfriend and she's a country music singer. Why is she talking about this? I wouldn't think that that's something that, like, where is she getting this information? I mean, is he telling her this? Is he giving her classified information? Is she being allowed to sit in and be read into things? I mean, I would think, being just a girlfriend, that she would not be allowed to have any access to anything. I mean, even a wife shouldn't really have too much, but I would think that a wife would be knowing a little bit more. But come on, a girlfriend. So it's interesting, the source, unless of course they're using her as a way to disseminate information. But it's one of those things, and I've talked about sleeper cells before numerous times over the years. I believe they exist. I don't think that, I think it would be completely naive. We know in many other countries, not only do they exist, but they have actually done things over the years. So I do believe they exist. I always think, though, it's, when you hear sleeper cells or something like that, is it more actual sleeper cells, or is it more of our own government, doing things and then blaming it on them? I don't know, but here's the deal. With all the craziness that's going on with the economy, with the food stamp thing, immigration, wars and rumors of wars, all of that, you would be silly to not be prepared in a defensive way, regardless of whether you think that sleeper cells are the thing or not. You should always have a solid plan for defense. Be armed and ready to defend yourself. And it's more than just packing a pistol or even having a truck gun or whatever. It's having a plan. And I'm not even just talking about training. Yes, you should practice, you should train, all that kind of stuff. But I'm talking about an actual plan. when you go about and doing your daily business, whether you're going to work or going shopping or whatever, what is your plan? Do you have a plan to get in, to get out if something, goes wrong? Do you have a plan? Do you know where there's places for cover and concealment? I just did a class, a week or so ago talking about this, explaining the difference and how to have a plan for that. When things go wrong, have you thought ahead? When you're going to the store, grocery store, or department store, or whatever, as you're pulling in the parking lot, you should be observing things that are going on around you and having a plan to escape, evacuate, evade, all of that kind of stuff. And so as you're in the store, everything, wherever you go, you should be kind of aware of your surroundings, keeping your head on a swivel, and aware of where exits are, ways that you can get out of that structure or that parking lot or that area, different routes home, and then be aware of things around you that can be cover. Meaning, if you don't know, and it seems silly that I have to say this, cover is things that protect you from being impaled by flying objects like bullets, okay? Concealment just means that they can't see you. Cover means that it's whatever it is, it's resistant to bullet penetration, okay? Your car is not cover. No, that's not cover. So don't think that's going to protect you. But are the sleeper cells real? Yeah, I think so. I think that there's a certain level of truth to that. Will we ever see anything? I don't know. I mean, I would think if we really did have a broad network of sleeper cells, determined to destroy America, we would have seen them doing things long ago. So, in other news, kind of piggybacking on last night's discussion of economic crisis that we are in, the president has now announced that all Americans, at least not the high income earners, so like middle to lower class, I guess. I haven't seen a number cut off, like an income number, but basically not high earners is what he says. Everyone's going to get a $2,000 stimulus. I mean, not stimulus, investment, like, a dividend check. That's what they're calling it. Not a stimulus. This is not a stimulus. This is a dividend check. Big difference. Big difference. Anyways, he says that every American or household or whatever is going to receive a $2,000 dividend check because of the tariffs. I mean, they're not saying this, but they're trying to say, well, we're paying you back for all the tariffs you've paid in. And I'm thinking, well, then what's the point of having tariffs? If the American people are paying it, and then you're going to turn around and you're going to pay people back for what they paid in, and why have the turmoil to have it? Anyways, this is going to be spun as, well, there's no food stamps, there's not all these other benefits, but we're going to give you a stimulus check. I mean, a dividend check. And that's going to take care of the problem. Here's how I think it's going to play out, possibly. This is how it's possibly going to play out. I'm not making a prediction. Right now, the Supreme Court is hearing the case on whether or not these tariffs are even legal or not, that the president can do them. And according to what I'm seeing in the news, it seems as though the court may be leaning towards that they are illegal, that they are unconstitutional. A lot of Republicans have come out saying that they are. And so let's just say that the Supreme Court rules that the tariffs are unconstitutional, that the president can't do that. According to the law, the government has to return that money. We return to businesses and importers, probably through some type of tax reduction or something like that. Now, that tariff money that's come in has most likely already been spent. So they will have to basically create $1 trillion, because that's what they're saying it would be. $1 trillion of money, just create it, to refund that back to the businesses. But then they're also refunding a dividend check of $2,000, which is about $1 trillion is what they're saying, to the American people. So in other words, they are creating $2 trillion, $1 trillion to businesses and $1 trillion to the American people. They're going to create $2 trillion, could potentially create $2 trillion out of thin air to give back to the American people and to pay back the businesses for tariffs that they should not have taken. It's a possibility. I mean, the dividend check to the American people seems to be pretty solid. I mean, they've talked about this since the beginning, and now Trump is saying that it will absolutely happen. So there's another influx of $2 trillion that came out of thin air, that they pulled it out of their ear or somewhere of their body orifice, and threw it into the economy, which we all have real good experience on what happens when they do that. It's going to cause inflation to spike. Inflation's already going up. So there's one thing. But the whole system, what I was trying to convey yesterday, this is the Great Reset. This is all of that. It's just, it's different. It's slightly different. It's not the same. It's slightly different, but the end result is the same. You know, under Biden, I think the things were just moving too slow. You know, they were moving too slow. It was interesting. If you go back and watch some of my videos over the last 4 or 5 years, when Biden was elected, but before he took office, he was interviewed by someone at the World Economic Forum. Not him. John Kerry was interviewed by someone at the World Economic Forum talking about Joe Biden being the new president, and asked if he was ready and capable of pushing the agenda of the World Economic Forum. And John Kerry's response is that you will see, what was it? Speed and intensity. Those were his words, that he will push this agenda with speed and intensity. And while there were some things happen, it was like the speed and intensity was the woke agenda. It really wasn't a whole lot. I mean, there was some things, certainly, with the World Economic Forum, but it wasn't the really core of it, the things that really needed to happen. And I believe it's quite possible that Trump was put into place because of that. Because since he has been in office, he has pushed that agenda way, way, way faster than happened under Joe Biden. You know, the Real ID, Digital ID, Nationalized ID Act. That came into power under, you know, I mean, they've been pushing that, for 15 years, 20 years now, and it never was implemented. And then that was one of the very first things that Trump implemented was the Real ID now. Now it's the deal. And they sold it to the American people for their safety and security. The central bank digital currencies. Now, it's not going to be a central bank digital currency because that's through the Federal Reserve, right? And then because it's through the Federal Reserve, it would be under the control of Congress. So that's what would make it a federalized digital currency. But instead, they're going to do a different type of digital currency with the stable coin. And that's going to be through individual banks like Bank of America and Chase Bank and stuff like that. And so it will be much more unregulated. Still controllable, but unregulated by Congress. See the good thing about it is at least it's somewhat regulated, but this won't even be regulated, but yet it's uncontrollable, meaning that the banks can control it. The banks can go in there and they can change the value of your digital currency, but Congress doesn't have any say-so over it. It's basically that's very loosely describing it. But this is the kind of stuff that's happening. The AI revolution, the Palantir and the surveillance systems, these digital data processing centers, where they're AI collection centers. These things are growing at a massive amount. In fact, so much so that the vast majority of the current growth, economic growth here in the United States, are these data centers that are being built. Like if those data centers didn't exist or the building of them didn't exist, our economy would be in absolute shambles. I mean, we would be, probably close to negative, in the negative GDP, it would be horrible. That's the only real area, that and just the AI tech stocks. AI tech stocks and these these data centers, and you might say there's so many of them, folks. There's thousands of them being built, and we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars right now as I speak are being pumped into these data centers that are used to collect your data. Okay, that's the only thing in this country right now that's experiencing real growth. Housing is not experiencing. Other than the data centers, regular construction is not experiencing growth. Manufacturing isn't really, I mean, there's small manufacturing maybe, but a lot of the big manufacturers aren't. Imports and everything's down. The supply chain is slowed down. It's the lowest number we have the lowest number of imports, like shipping containers, coming into this country than we've had in over 20 years. Everything is showing signs of slowdown with the exception of the AI tech stocks, these AI companies, and the data centers. So that should tell you something right now, right there, that the only area of growth in this country is an area that is growing to control you, to spy on you and to control you. And the president, the White House, they brag about it like it's a good thing. They're not telling you what this stuff is actually going to be used for, but some of these other people are. The guys that are running these companies, they flat out say that it's going to monitor you, that they'll be able to, determine if people are going to commit crimes based on their behaviors and stuff, that they'll, you won't go to a real doctor anymore. It'll all be AI and robotics. Even Elon Musk the other day was saying that, in the future that AI will control everything, that it won't be humans. Humans won't be in charge. It'll be AI. I mean, this is right out of Revelation, where they created an image of the beast and gave the beast life, right? The AI, the robotics, is the image of the beast, and it has life, and it has the capability of doing all these things. So, yeah, I know probably some people don't like what I'm saying, making you mad and all this kind of stuff. But I think there's at least a certain level of accuracy to what I'm saying. And it needs to be an awakening moment for you to get yourself ready. It needs to be something that pushes you to get ready. Do I have, does anyone else have an easy answer and solution to all this? Of course not. None of us do. That's why there's all people like myself out there. I mean, there's actually not a lot of people out there talking about this kind of stuff I'm talking about. But there's a few. Because there's still a lot out there that are like, yay, we're winning, right? But you need to wake up, and I still believe that the best option is to have a backup plan to be able to sever your ties as much as you can from this system and to be self-sufficient. I know that sounds crazy to some of you, but I think that's about the only answer that we have. I'm not going to go into it because this video is already long. But there's current things, there's things that's happened over the last few years and going all the way back to biblical times that indicate that the ability to be self-sufficient, to take care of your own needs and not be dependent upon government or the system or the supply chain or whatever, is maybe the only thing that can save your freedom. I mean, saving your soul's different. That's Yeshua, that's Jesus Christ the King. I mean, you definitely need him too. But you need to wake up and you need to get ready, folks, because it's happening so fast. It's like head spinning speed. Get your houses in order and prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.